Welcome to this narrated PowerPoint on Comprehension Instruction and Strategies. I'm Jay Rasmussen, a professor of education and coordinator of faculty development at Bethel University. This PowerPoint will be used to present some basic content information that can be of real value to you as you work with students through Ask. In order to help you get the most from this presentation, I prepared two pause and reflect activities. The first activity is on the screen now. I suggest that you take notes during the presentation, start and stop the PowerPoint when you wish, and then come prepared to share your notes with a faculty leader from the center. The second pause and reflect activity will be explained later. During this PowerPoint, we'll investigate four essential questions, two of which are shown on this slide. We'll also investigate these two questions. In terms of what we mean by reading comprehension, it's interesting to note that until the late 70s, little attention was paid to reading comprehension. One of the reasons for this is that we often assumed that if a student could decode reasonably well, they were a reader. What we didn't know is that many students could be skilled decoders, what I call word callers, and they had no idea what they were reading. If you asked them to tell you what they just read, you'd often be met with blank stares. Another reason for the limited focus on comprehension was that no one could really define what it even was. In the late 1990s, several good definitions were published. I'm going to argue that if we combine these two definitions, we'll have a solid working knowledge of what we mean by reading comprehension. Several key words stand out in each definition. I've underlined them. Construct meaning from written text and incorporate new information from the reading with the student's previously existing knowledge. Reading comprehension, especially of expository text, is a real struggle for many of the students you'll encounter in your role as a tutor. Why so many students struggle with content area text is complex, and typically multiple factors are at play. Reader factors might include a student's academic vocabulary, background knowledge in the discipline, and interest and motivation, among other issues. Teacher factors are critical as well. These might include the amount and difficulty of the assigned reading, supports that are given or not given to the student, and accountability measures used to ensure that students actually read the assigned work. Text factors include issues like the readability level of the text, how cohesively the text is written, and simple things like page layout, use of graphs, charts, and diagrams. Students with learning disabilities face some additional struggles when it comes to comprehension. Not only do they have the reader, teacher, and text factors we looked at to contend with, they are likely to have one or more of the 5 challenges listed on this slide and the next one. Let's consider our third question now. What are the basic principles of reading comprehension? What we're finding is if we can get students to pay attention as they read, they'll comprehend better. Now, this may sound simple, but it flies in the face of human nature. The normal tendency when the text becomes difficult is to just read words and not deal with understanding. One is shifting down cognitively. What good readers do when text becomes difficult is that they vigorously attack the text. We need to work hard at things not understood. Comprehension is as much physical as it is cognitive. Brain imaging studies have shown that a skilled reader's brain operates very differently than a poor reader's brain. I'll pause now to give you about 10 seconds to think about what differences you see between these two brains. Hopefully you notice that the attention paid to text was higher for the skilled reader than the poor reader. Did you also notice that the skilled reader pays more attention to essential content words, for example, dog, ran, across, and street, than the poor reader did? Eye fixation studies have shown that poor readers tend to spend almost an equal amount of time on each word, even though those words aren't all of equal importance in terms of understanding. An additional principle is that when there is an active pencil in hand, something good will happen. In other words, we must teach students skills such as how to use the dictionary, choose key words, determine paragraph headings, paraphrase, write margin notes, and construct summaries. There's also a strong link between comprehension and the chance to talk about text. This is something we've known for years, but it's not happening in classrooms. When it comes to working with your students, please suggest that they talk about text in a partner and/or small group situation to maximize the time they're able to speak. The benefits of students talking about text have been well documented for both expository and narrative text. The final principle is that what happens during pre-reading and during reading often shapes comprehension of text. We'll look now at 5 strategies a student can do during the reading phase. Let me give you a little background information about the 5 strategies you see in this slide. They come from work conducted by Dole, Duffy, Roller, and Pearson in 1991 when they completed a meta-analysis that involved looking at over 20 years of comprehension research. The only strategies that made the top 5 list are those that appear in multiple studies the researchers examined. Since 1991, other researchers have confirmed the value of teaching these 5 strategies. Let's look at the monitoring comprehension first. When we think about monitoring comprehension, it means that being metacognitive, thinking about one's own thinking, and recognizing when text isn't being understood, and then doing something to correct the problem. We're going to take a break now for the second pause and reflect activity. In order to do this, please consider both questions and write down your thoughts for later discussion. Let's take a look at this quote, and then I'll add one thought. What we've discovered is that good readers will typically use 2 or 3 of the 5 strategies we've looked at. The catch is that we as teachers and tutors don't know ahead of time which of the 5 strategies that will be. Different students you work with will gravitate toward different strategies. Please take a look at this quote and then advance to the next slide. Let's now return to the first pause and reflect activity. Please complete writing down your thoughts and be prepared to share your insights for this activity and the second pause and reflect activity with an Ask Leader. That brings us to the conclusion of this PowerPoint. Thanks for joining me and considering how you can better assist your students with content area comprehension.